A team of Navy SEALs receives a mission to rescue Dr. Howard Plummer, who's been captured by Serbian rebels. During the operation, Lieutenant Shane Wolfe manages to free him. While they're escaping, Howard shows him a photo of his children, but Shane, not particularly interested, urges him to hurry and get on the helicopter. Suddenly, they're attacked. Howard is killed, and Shane is wounded. 2 months later, Shane has recovered, and his commander, Bill, explains to him that Dr. Howard had been working on a program called Ghost, designed to prevent missile attacks. The Serbians captured him, thinking the program was inside a briefcase, but it wasn't. Now, Bill assigns Shane a new mission, to find the Ghost program, alone and in secret. Bill explains that the Serbians still believe the Ghost program is in Howard's house. He also tells Shane that they found a safety deposit box in Zurich in the doctor's name. Bill will travel there with Julie, Howard's widow, to retrieve it, while Shane stays behind at the family home to protect the children and search for the program. Shane arrives at the house, and Julie introduces him to her children, Zoe, Seth, Lulu, and Peter. She tells him he'll be taking care of them while she's away. Shane is surprised to discover that there aren't 4, but 5 children, when the nanny, Helga, introduces him to baby Tyler. Julie tells Shane that the kids haven't fully processed what happened, and that it's been hardest for Zoe and Seth. Shane says it must have been difficult for her too, but Julie explains that Howard was rarely home because he was away for months at a time. Shane replies that he understands what it's like. Julie mentions that someone broke into the house a week ago. Shane gets to work and sets up the home security system. Before leaving for Zurich, Julie asks the children to obey Shane. Although she's worried about leaving them alone, both Shane and the nanny assure her everything will be fine. Shane goes back to his work, but hears a child scream and rushes to the living room, only to find that everyone is simply going about their routines. Lulu's playing video games, and Peter is throwing cereal from inside a fish tank. Shane is angered by their behavior and demands discipline, but they don't care. Suddenly, he sees someone outside and catches them climbing up to Zoe's balcony. Before he can interrogate the intruder, Zoe appears and says it's her boyfriend, Scott. It turns out he was the one sneaking into the house. The neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Chun, complain about the alarms, and Shane promises it won't happen again. Zoe asks Shane to let Scott in, but instead he orders him to do 20 push-ups. Zoe is furious, thinking Scott will break up with her because of Shane, and she yells at him to get out of her life. Seeing that the kids won't listen, Shane decides to enforce strict discipline. The next morning, he wakes them at 6 with a whistle, gathers them in the dining room, and fits them with tracking devices. When he notices Seth is missing, he breaks down his bedroom door, only for Seth to come out of the bathroom and yell at him for destroying the door. Later, Zoe and Seth scheme to get rid of Shane by pouring oil on the stairs, but the nanny ends up falling instead. Meanwhile, Julie and the commander arrive in Zurich and locate the safety deposit box, but they can't open it because they don't have the password. After the fall, the nanny quits, but Shane begs her not to leave because he can't manage the kids on his own. As they argue, Julie calls to say she'll be away for a few more days. Shane tries to defuse the situation, but the nanny bites him and storms off, leaving him completely alone with the children. Shane informs the kids that their mom will be away longer, and they start listing their to-dos. Seth has wrestling practice, Zoe has driving lessons and wants to go to the mall, and Lulu needs to sell cookies. Holding baby Tyler in his arms, Shane asks who's going to change him, but everyone walks off, leaving him to remove the diaper and clean the baby by dunking him in the toilet. I love how Shane, a soldier trained for high-risk missions and life-or-death situations, ends up completely overwhelmed when he has to take care of a group of kids. It's ironic, but that's where the movie is sending a message. This job is far more difficult and valuable than we often acknowledge. In the US, soldiers are often glorified, seen as the ultimate heroes, and maybe this film is trying to remind us that the work done at home, the work that quite literally upholds an entire society, deserves that same level of respect and recognition. What happens at home isn't as simple as many think. Changing diapers, preparing meals, driving each kid to their activities, breaking up fights, calming tears, helping with homework, listening to school problems, coordinating schedules, soothing tantrums, all while trying to keep some order and sanity in the middle of the chaos. It's a full-time job with no fixed hours, no days off, and often, no thank you at the end of the day. This work is often minimized because it doesn't generate a salary or get measured in clear outcomes like an office project. But watching someone like Shane, who can handle anything on the battlefield, fall apart at a baby's cry or lose his temper at the kid's endless demands, makes it clear just how much patience, attention, and emotional strength parents, especially mothers, need to hold a house together. Maybe it's time to stop calling it just staying at home and start recognizing it for what it truly is, the work that sustains families and shapes the people who will become the future. Just a quick pause to say that if you're enjoying this video and haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. It would mean a lot and really helps me keep making more videos and content like this. Alright, let's get back to the story. The next day, Shane orders food, but breakfast ends in disaster when the baby gets startled by Lulu, and Peter flips the table. Then he receives a call from the school's vice principal, warning that if Zoe and Seth are late again, they'll be suspended, and he wants to see them now. Shane gets ready with Peter strapped to his back, the baby on his chest, and bottles hanging from his belt. He drives them all in the minivan, arriving just in time. He introduces himself to Vice Principal Dwayne, who also happens to be the wrestling coach, and mocks him by calling him Nanny and Big Tough Guy. He taunts Seth for skipping practice and Zoe for missing driving classes, saying they're the worst students in the entire school. At that moment, Principal Claire interrupts Dwayne and sends him outside to supervise. She sends the children to class and tells Shane that Julie has already explained the situation. She also says she knows Shane is a lieutenant, and then reveals she's a Navy officer, surprising Shane. He asks to stay at the school to watch over the kids, and she agrees. Shane keeps watch with binoculars and sees that Seth is being bullied by 6 members of the wrestling team. Shane tries to step in, but Dwayne tells him it's good for Seth because it'll teach him to defend himself. Dwayne tells Shane he should come to his wrestling class for a demonstration, but Shane replies that he's on duty. Dwayne mocks him by calling him a nanny and walks off. Seth gets upset with Shane for interfering. Later, when Shane is trying to calm the baby, Claire approaches him, but just then, Shane receives an alert from Zoe's tracker and runs out. He follows the signal to a storm drain and realizes that Zoe had thrown her bracelet down there. He returns to the house covered in grime and smelling awful. After showering, Shane sees Lulu with a group of girls at the table who tease him about his chest. Lulu explains they have to sell cookies in order to attend a convention, and he agrees to take them as long as they follow his rules. He brings them to the Costco parking lot to sell, but a group of boys show up, smash their cookies, and claim it's their territory. Then, when one girl asks to stop for food, Shane takes them to Woody's Play Palace, where there's a chaotic crowd of kids. Shane remarks, "And they say war is hell." Back at the house, Shane finds a party going on with Zoe's friends. He orders everyone to stop and makes them clean up before leaving. While supervising, he finds a CD labeled Ghost and slips it into his pocket. When everyone leaves, Zoe argues with Shane again and tells him to stay out of her life. Shane tells her that those people aren't her friends, and they don't respect her, and that she doesn't respect herself either. Zoe gets angry and snaps that he's not her father. She tells him the family is already going through a hard time, and he's only making it worse. She asks him to leave and stay out of their lives. At that moment, 2 men break into the house, and Shane orders the kids to lock themselves in a room. He fights off the intruders and manages to drive them away. Afterward, he goes to the children and tells them they're safe. Lulu hugs him and begs him not to leave them alone. Seth asks what the men were after, and Shane tells them they're looking for their dad's CD, but he promises not to let them have it. The kids finally accept him into the house, and Shane and the children agree to start listening to one another. Shane takes Zoe to her driving class, but she panics at the sight of a bee, loses control, and crashes the car. Then, the school calls Shane to say that Seth dyed his hair blonde, and they found a German symbol in his locker. The principal tells him that she's asked Zoe and Seth to see the school psychologist, but they've refused, and she asks Shane to speak with them to find out what's going on. When they return from school, Shane asks Seth why he joined the wrestling team if he doesn't like it, and Seth tells him he only did it because his dad asked him to. He also tells Shane to stop trying to help him, that he can take care of himself. Shane goes to Seth's room to talk, but realizes he's run away. He asks Zoe to watch over the other kids and heads out to find him. He follows Seth to a local theater and sees that he's rehearsing for The Sound of Music. That's why he dyed his hair blonde and was wearing a German badge. When Seth messes up a line, the director gets angry and quits. Shane approaches, and although Seth assumes he won't understand his passion, Shane tells him that while he may not know anything about acting, he does know about not giving up. And with discipline, Seth could be very good. Seth asks if girls will think it's weird, and Shane tells him maybe they will, but they'll fall in love anyway, and if acting makes him happy, he should go for it. Shane takes charge and begins directing the musical. We've just seen that Seth loves acting, but he was hiding it because his father wanted him to wrestle, and he probably stayed with it because of a fear many of us have felt, the fear of disappointing a parent. Seth's dad spent a lot of time away for work, and although we don't know all the details of their relationship, we can imagine that, in his mind, he thought he was doing what was best for his son. Given his profession and the dangers he envisioned, he probably believed that teaching Seth to fight would protect him and his family. And that's perhaps the saddest part. Many parents don't realize the harm they can cause with their expectations, because their intent isn't to hurt, but to protect, or to share something they value. In the end, that expectation, however well-intentioned, ended up hurting Seth deeply. Parents' expectations weigh heavily, even when they come from love. Sometimes children feel they can't say what they truly want because they're afraid of losing their parents' love or breaking the image their parents have of them. They think that if they show who they really are, they'll be a disappointment. Hopefully, Seth's conflict can help us reflect. How can we support the people we love without imposing our own ideas of what they should be? How can we create spaces where children feel safe to express what they feel, think, and dream, without fear of being judged or losing their family's love? Sometimes the greatest gift a parent can give a child is permission to be who they truly are, to discover their passions and follow them without fear of losing the love of who matters most. That night, Shane reads Lulu a bedtime story until she falls asleep, and then does the Peter Panda dance to help Peter fall asleep, just like their dad used to do. The next day, he encourages Zoe to drive the minivan. Though it's a bit tricky, they make it to school. The principal's surprised to see how much the plumber kids have improved. Later, the vice principal brings Seth to Shane after catching him dancing, and Shane gives him the confidence to stand up for himself. Seth tells the vice principal he's quitting wrestling because he wants to act. The vice principal mocks him, saying there's no man in his house, but Seth replies that there is one. Him. The vice principal laughs, and Shane agrees to fight him after school. When the time comes, they fight, and Shane defeats him easily, fully earning the children's trust. Shane teaches Zoe how to drive, helps Seth with his play, and trains Lulu and her friends while looking after Tyler. That night, while Shane dances for Peter, the boy thanks him and calls him Dad. Kate and her friends are harassed again by the boys, but this time they use what Shane taught them and take the boys down. Meanwhile, Julie discovers that the password to the safety deposit box was My Angel, just like the inscription on her ring. Inside, they find a double-headed key. Back at the house, Shane finds Zoe sitting alone in her room. She tells him she was right about Scott, that he was a jerk, but that's not what's really bothering her. Shane asks what's wrong, but she doesn't want to talk. So Shane opens up and shares that when he was a kid, his mom left and his dad, who was a soldier, sent him to military school at age 8. His father preferred being a soldier to being a dad, and one day, Shane got the news that he died. He admits that for a long time, he thought talking about it was like betraying his father, but he learned it wasn't. He tells Zoe that if she wants to, she can talk about her dad. She says she tried to be strong for her brothers and her mom, but then she breaks down in tears and admits how much she misses her dad. Shane tells her it's okay to miss him. I really liked this moment because we got to see another side of Shane, not the soldier, but the man who grew up believing that sharing his pain made him weak. Many of us were taught that being strong means not talking about what hurts, swallowing everything so we don't seem fragile, especially men, who are often raised to believe that strength is measured by how many tears they can hold back. But I've always found that idea ironic. It takes much more courage to face what hurts and dare to share it than to run from it and pretend nothing's wrong. And when Shane allowed himself to be vulnerable, he gave Zoe permission to do the same. We saw how Zoe, as the eldest sibling, had put on invisible armor. She felt that she had to be strong for her brothers and for her mom, and to do that, she buried her own pain to keep everyone else standing. This happens all the time. There are people who, in the middle of hard situations, feel they have to hold everything together, even when they're just as broken inside. They believe that if they fall apart, everything else will too. So they stay standing, even if it means silencing their own suffering. And yes, sometimes that helps others get through the moment. But the problem starts when you forget yourself, when there's no space to release what you carry inside, when you forget that you too have the right to cry, to rest, and be cared for. And slowly, you start breaking a little more inside each day. Zoe allowed herself to be cared for by Shane. She allowed herself to say she missed her dad. She allowed herself to cry. And in doing so, she released some of the weight she was carrying. But I want to take this moment to send a hug to anyone who, in the midst of pain, feels they can't fall because someone else needs them. I want to remind you that your pain matters too, that you don't have to carry everything alone, that you also deserve a space to cry, to rest, and I sincerely hope you find that space. Later, Julie calls to say she'll be home soon. The kids get excited and begin planning a welcome back party, while Shane watches them, visibly moved. That same day, Shane finds a vault in the garage and makes a call to report that it requires a special key to open. Julie returns home, and the children greet her with a surprise party. Shane takes Commander Bill to the garage and admits that he's unsure whether he wants to stay in the Navy, because for the first time, he feels like he wants a family. Before he can say more, they're attacked by none other than their neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Chun, and to Shane's shock, Bill joins them and knocks him out. The children and Julie are tied up, and Bill reveals that he works for North Korea. Mr. Chun stays with the kids, while Bill and Mrs. Chun take Julie and attempt to open the vault, but they're unable to bypass the security system. The children manage to free themselves and wake up Shane, who tells them to find the police while he goes after Julie. The kids escape in the minivan with Zoe driving. Mr. Chun gives chase, but they manage to lose him and lead the police back to the house. Shane finds Julie and discovers that the Peter Panda dance is the key to bypass the security system and open the vault. He then defeats both Bill and Mrs. Chun in a fight. Mr. Chun arrives at the house and holds everyone at gunpoint, demanding the ghost. Claire steps in and takes him down. Shane thanks her, and the two start to flirt until Lulu interrupts them. Lulu gives Shane a photo of the siblings so he won't forget them, and they say goodbye with love. Everyone attends Seth's play, where the vice principal appears dressed as a nun. Shane tells Claire that he's leaving the Navy to become the school's wrestling coach, and they kiss. Without intending to, Shane became the adult who helped these children face the loss of their father. A father who, even when alive, was often absent due to work and long missions that kept him away from home. They likely admired and missed him, but his absence had left a space that was never quite filled. When he died, that emptiness became permanent. And as is often the case with grief, especially in children, they didn't always know what to do with the pain. They didn't always have the words to express how they felt, nor a safe space to talk about it, nor someone who would simply listen and be there, without trying to immediately take the pain away. Shane didn't come to replace the father who was no longer there. He was an adult who stayed with them while they grieved, who wasn't afraid of their emotions or dismissive of their feelings, who gave them permission to feel whatever they needed to feel. And sometimes, that's exactly what a child needs most in order to process their pain. By accompanying them through their responsibilities, being there for important moments, listening to their fears, protecting them from danger, and even scolding them firmly when needed, Shane gradually restored a sense of safety in their lives. And that brings me to something I find truly beautiful. This mission, so different from the ones Shane was used to, taught him what it really means to care. He already knew how to protect physically, how to keep people safe from external threats, but by living with this family, he began to understand that caring is much more than that. He learned to know each child, to notice their needs, to pay attention to their emotions, and to protect them in a way that went far beyond the physical. To care is also to observe attentively, to truly listen, and to be present. So, all in all, this comedy leaves us with some valuable things to reflect on. It reminds us of the importance of valuing the work done at home, so often taken for granted, yet fundamental to everyday life. It's a job that deserves to be seen and recognized. It also spoke to us about the need to respect the individuality of children, not to turn them into extensions of our own dreams or fears, but to give them space to discover who they are and what they love without living in constant fear of disappointing us. It showed us that having safe spaces to feel and talk about pain is not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it takes great courage to face what hurts, to acknowledge it, and to dare put it into words. It reminded us that, on the journey of caring for others, we must not forget ourselves. Being strong for others does not mean silencing what we feel. We also deserve to be cared for. And finally, it showed us the power of a present adult, someone who chooses to see, listen, and care. Because sometimes a present adult can change the entire world of a child who is facing deep pain. Thanks for staying until the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with a friend who you think might enjoy it. And you and I'll see you in the next one.